If it's been a long day and life's getting you down, just sit with a puzzle and turn it around. Piece by piece, piece by piece puzzler.
Hi Puzzle Fam, this is Richard, aka Piece by Piece Puzzler, and I want to welcome you back for another episode of my new series called The Week in Pieces. Now, I've actually been under the weather for the better part of the last week and a half, so this ends up being kind of like a double episode of the show because I have a lot of puzzles to talk about and a lot of new puzzles that have come into my collection that I want to show you. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking to you at the very beginning. I want to get right into showing you the puzzles that I've done over the last couple of weeks and talking about them a little bit with you. So without further ado, the puzzles I've done. So I think I mentioned to you in a previous video that I'm actually now a Springbok Puzzles ambassador, which means that every so often they send me an email with all of their new release puzzles and they let me choose a couple that I get to try ahead of the general public. And I take pictures of them to share on social media and also to share with you all. So I did this puzzle a little over 2 weeks ago. It's called Old Western Town. It's by Springbok. It's a 500-piece puzzle. And as you can see, it's this cowboy who's kind of riding through this old Western town. And as soon as I saw this one, I immediately thought of my mom because she loves old Western movies. And I thought this would be a fun one to do. And then once I finished it, to pass it along to her. So that's what I plan to do with this one. I plan to send it over to her once I've taken it apart so that she can enjoy it as well. But I had a lot of fun with this one. It has some sort of irregular piece shapes as most of the Springbok puzzles have, but I really enjoyed the textures throughout this puzzle. I really enjoyed kind of doing like the road texture and then the different storefronts and the different names of the different stores as they all came together. This is a really fun one to do, and I'm really glad and very grateful to Springbok for sending this one my way. So next on my list of puzzles to show you is this really cool one also from Springbok, and it's called the Puzzler. So some of you may recognize the general theme of this puzzle because it's one that Karen Puzzles has also done on her channel, and it's a vintage puzzle which Springbok actually put out in 1975. The difference between the previous Puzzler and this new version is that the previous one was a full circular jigsaw puzzle only made up of different colorful puzzle pieces. The new version by Springbok, it's a tiny bit easier because they've added in the numerals 60, and that's for Springbok's 60th anniversary, which is being celebrated this year. So I think it's a really cool idea for Springbok to put out this puzzle that's kind of a nod to their past and to their history, and to sort of carrying forward the legacy of the Springbok name that they're carrying with them as a brand. So I really enjoyed this one. It was quite difficult, but it was not impossible. Basically what I did was I pulled out all the pieces that I thought were part of the central numbers in the puzzle. And then once I finished those, I started to look through the puzzle and figure out which colors were appearing the least in terms of the little puzzle pieces within the image. And then I would pick out that color and I would put those together. And then through process of elimination, I got down to only a few colors left, which were fairly large sections of the puzzle still. But once I got to that point, I was able to kind of use the shapes of the areas that were left over to fill in the rest of the puzzle. So I had a lot of fun with this one. It was a challenge, but it was not an impossible challenge. And I thought it was kind of a cool thing to be able to challenge myself with this puzzle, but also be sort of celebrating the legacy of Springbok in the process. So when I saw the list of puzzles that Springbok was putting out, I got a little bit nervous about choosing this one, but I ultimately decided I just had to go for it because I was excited to dig into this one and kind of prove to myself that I could do it. Even if it was a tiny bit easier than the vintage version of this puzzle, I still felt a real sense of accomplishment once I had finished it and I could look at the full image. So I'm really proud to have this finished puzzle behind me and to share it with you. And I hope that you'll check this one out because I think a lot of you would have a lot of fun with this one. So in the past few videos, I've been talking about a fairly new puzzle brand called BART Games. And it's partly because they were nice enough to send me a whole bunch of puzzles to try out so that I could get a sense of their company and their different puzzles. So after I finished a couple of their smaller mini puzzles, which I talked about on the last video, I decided it was time to tackle one of their slightly larger puzzles, and I pulled out this one, which is called Animal Atlas. So this one is 105 pieces, and as you can see, it's behind me here. It is a oval-shaped wooden puzzle. So it's an interesting one because as soon as I pulled the pieces out of the box, I thought to myself that it seemed like it would be quite large in size because of the size of the pieces. They were quite large and chunky. And also, I thought that it looked like it would be a great puzzle for either families who have fairly young children who want to be involved in puzzling. Since it's a wooden puzzle, and I'm sure the pieces could be a choking hazard, you probably would still want to have parental supervision. But because of the animal whimsy pieces and the shape of the pieces and how sturdy they are, I think a kid who is like old enough to be able to do a puzzle would have a lot of fun helping with this one. And also I thought it could be good for older adults if they want to do a wooden puzzle, but they don't really have either the patience or the agility to handle the small wooden pieces that some of the wooden puzzle companies have. Because if I can just show you as an example, like here's an edge piece. It's quite large and it's really easy to handle. So I really like this one, and I think it's my favorite of the BART Games ones that I've tried so far. I have a couple of more on my stack that I will be trying in the next few months, but I did want to show you this one in the meantime. There's only one thing that I would count as a minor downside to this puzzle, and it didn't necessarily impact my enjoyment of it, but when I looked at the puzzle image on the card, I'm holding it upside down, it's kind of this dark color, orangey, and the water is a little bit closer to like a darker blue or green. And as you can sort of see in the puzzle behind me, I hope the camera is picking it up. The tones of the puzzle are just a little bit softer in the actual puzzle than they are in the printed image. So I mentioned this to BART Games, and they said to me that they are actually working on this. They have changed up their system, and they're working on their process on how they make the puzzles in order to make the puzzle image have a more color accurate tone to the reference image that they include in the box and on the puzzle box. So I think it's really cool that BART Games is taking some steps to improve that aspect of their puzzles, but at the same time, it didn't really hinder my enjoyment of this one. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think a lot of other folks would enjoy it as well. So this next puzzle that I did this one at the end of last week, just before I started to feel like I was getting a cold. And I finished it on Saturday, sort of when the cold was just starting to take hold. And I was really just trying to push through because I'd gotten so far in the process and I wanted to see it complete before everything fell apart. I could kind of feel it coming on, and I just wanted to sit there, focus on the puzzle, get it finished so that I could sit there and just like let the rest of the ride roll with this cold that I came down with ultimately. So I finished this puzzle, I think it was on Saturday over the weekend, last weekend, and I absolutely loved it. This is one from Soonness's PMP collection from last year, from 2022, and the artwork is by the Korean artist Rowon. I absolutely love her work. She also did a puzzle called Girls Room, which Jigsaw Juby just recently featured on her channel. And there's a new one called, I think it's called Electronic Fantasy. And it's part of the new PNP collection that Soonness has actually just launched as of the day of the filming of this video. So what I liked about this one, it was quite difficult. When you look at the puzzle image on the box, hold on, I'll grab it, right here. It looks like the sections are quite differentiated. You know, you kind of think, oh, I can easily pick out all the images on these snack bags and just put them in the right spot. However, if you view the pieces up close, I'll see if I can just kind of snap one out without messing up the whole puzzle. If you pull one out and you look at up close what the patterns look like, you can see that the sort of crayon and colored pencil texture to the pieces really makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out exactly where they all go. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I really enjoyed it. And actually what became kind of a mesmerizing and unique aspect of the puzzle is that you see this sea of pieces and they all have this kind of colored pencil texture, and you sort of have a sense of where each one goes. And if you really look at the image long enough, you have a sense of where each one snaps in. But the individual pieces look quite abstract, but they start to form this kind of larger whole. And I really liked that about the puzzle. As it came together, it became sort of more and more satisfying to see what the image ultimately looked like. And I just had a blast with this one. I know it's still early in 2023, but I have a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite puzzles of this year, which is actually not that atypical of a Soonness puzzle, because last year in 2022, the first puzzle that I did was Jelly Bean by Soonness, and that ended up being one of my favorite puzzles of the year as well. So there's a trend going on with Soonness, and I have to keep this in mind for 2024 so that I can make the next puzzle of next year also a Soonness puzzle, in the hopes that it will be a good omen once again. So since I'm going through these puzzles basically in the order that I completed them since the last video, the last one was pretty much the final puzzle that I completed before I got the cold that I'm just getting over now. And then here behind me is this Friends puzzle by Ravensburger, which was the first puzzle I did coming out of the cold, and now kind of going into today was really the first day when I kind of felt like I was kind of coming back to myself and able to sit up and talk and not sound like I had this husky, throaty, sick voice. So I really like this one. I chose it because I thought it would be really, really easy, because I thought, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of faces. I'm going to recognize where all the pieces go and just throw them together. It'll be fine. It's just an easy Friends puzzle. Well, it turned out that once I turned all the pieces out onto a piece of foam core board, some of it was easy. The edges were easy, and parts of the border were easy that have some repeating phrases on it. But once I got to the hair and the faces, it was definitely not easy. I mean, Phoebe's hair is blonde, and she's the only one that has fully blonde hair. So it was pretty easy to pick out those pieces. But coming up with the skin textures of each of their faces, and also the dark sections of their hair, because all of their hair colors look quite similar in the photograph, it made it more difficult than I expected. So I really like how this one turned out and how it looks completed on the table. It was more of a challenge than I expected, but that's not a bad thing because it was only 500 pieces. So in the end, it's not like it took me hours and hours to put it together. It probably took me about 2 hours of work, all said and done. So I like this one. To me, Friends is the kind of a comfort show. So coming out of a cold, I looked at my shelf and just thought, which one is screaming out to me now to be done? And it was this Friends puzzle. And so it really served its purpose for that exact moment in time. So now that I've gone through all of the puzzles that I've done over the last couple of weeks, let's move into the puzzle haul section of the video. So this week, in terms of the puzzle haul, I actually brought in more puzzles than usual, and it's partly because it's been almost 2 weeks since I put out the last video, so there are just a few more puzzles than I normally would have in a single week. However, because of something I'll talk about a little bit later in the video, there was an extra abundance of puzzles that is definitely out of the ordinary, and I will be talking about that just a little bit later in the video, so please stay tuned and make it through the rest of this portion of the video. So first I'll show you a couple of puzzles that I found at the local thrift shop. So our thrift shop out here in New York City, oftentimes the puzzles cost more money here in New York than they would in other parts of the country. I get very jealous when I see all of your thrifting, that some of you find really amazing wooden puzzles for $3, or cardboard puzzles that are just new brands for $1 or $2. We don't really get that in New York City very much. However, there is a local thrift store near me that prices pretty much all of their puzzles at $3, which is not too bad, especially considering they sometimes get some pretty nice brands. So I found two puzzles, and the first one, it's called Employee of the Month, and it's by a company called Brass Monkey. So I haven't seen this one before, though I think I might have heard of the company. And it says on the box that it's an apartment puzzle, and it also says it's also legally allowed to be completed in houses, which I thought was funny. So initially when I looked at this, it's not my usual style. I don't normally like to do pictures that are primarily of dogs or cats or pets. I love all of your cats and dogs on Instagram, but I'm not a pet owner, and I just don't have a particular affinity for that kind of image. However, something about this particular dog, he looks kind of sweet, And also I started looking around the sides of the box, and it says, Employee of the Month, a puzzle. And then it says, your dog was a strong candidate, but this one didn't roll on a dead squirrel. There were a couple of quirky things on here. And also it said that it's 300 pieces and it's sized perfectly for an apartment. So I thought that just in theory, this would be a fun one to do, to try out this concept and see if the size and the brand are ones that I like, because if they have other ones that are in this size, it might be worth giving them a try if I enjoy this one. So I picked this one up kind of on a lark. I don't know how soon I'll get to this one, but I do think it'll be fun to complete and a bit of a challenge. And I have some dog owner friends who may end up inheriting this one after I finish it. So next, also in the category of thrifted puzzles from the same thrift shop, I found this really amazing Stay Golden Golden Girls puzzle, which is from the company The Found. So you may remember that on the last episode of the Week in Pieces, I talked a bit about The Found because I did the Michelle Obama puzzle by them a couple of weeks ago at the Hudson Puzzle Club. And I really enjoyed it. And at the same time, right around then, I also borrowed a Dolly Parton puzzle that I haven't put together yet, also from the Hudson Puzzle Club. But this one I was really happy to find for $3, and the sides of the box were taped, so I felt pretty confident that either all the pieces were there or hopefully most of the pieces were there. So I picked this one up. I think this one's going to be really fun. I'm kind of saving this for a day when I'm feeling a little bit down in the dumps, but I want to do like a bright, happy puzzle that's only 500 pieces, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So this is Stay Golden, and this was my second thrifted puzzle. So I'm going to move the thrifted ones out of the way and then show you the next batch. Okay, so next were a couple of puzzles that I found on eBay, and I've been looking at a lot of puzzles on eBay, probably more than I should, and probably spending a little bit more than I should on puzzles on eBay. But a couple popped up that really caught my eye, and I put in an offer that was lower than what they were asking for, and the seller accepted. So I was thrilled to add these to my collection. So the first one is this Liberty puzzle, and it's called Garden Harvest. It is 378 pieces, and it has all of these fruits and vegetables. It makes me think of summer, but also a little bit of fall. It kind of makes me think of a combination of sort of the summer harvest and sort of the autumn cornucopia. But I really enjoyed the image. And because this one was more affordable than most of the Liberties that pop up on eBay, I just couldn't resist it. I thought this would be a fun one to do. So if you've been following my channel for a while, if you're curious about the brand Liberty, if you look back a bit in my video history, you'll see that I did one on trying a Liberty wooden puzzle. I did a puzzle called the Beast King, which was an oval-shaped puzzle, sort of similar in that way to the Animal Atlas that I just showed you. That was a fun puzzle, one of the highlights of the last year of puzzling. So I'm looking forward to doing this one. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to get to this one, but I just snapped on this when I saw it, and I'm really glad to be adding this to the collection. So also from the same seller, they had listed a puzzle. Here it is. It's a vintage Springbok puzzle. It's called Songbirds, and this one is from the 1960s. The box is in quite damaged shape. But like I said, both of these puzzles, I put in a lower offer than the seller was asking for. It's also listed as complete. I'm fairly sure that this one had an image of the puzzle, of the completed puzzle, which, just as a tip, if you're on eBay, if you're investing a little bit more money than usual into a puzzle, it's a good idea if you look and see if the listing has an image of the completed puzzle. Obviously, not every instance has this, and you can have good luck even if there's not an image listed, but it's a good sign and a bit of added confidence if the seller has clearly done the puzzle and shows you that it's complete. So I don't remember if that was the case for all the ones that I'm showing you in this video, but it's just something to mention here for you. So this is Songbirds. This is one I picked up from eBay, from the same seller as the Liberty, and I'm really happy to be adding this one. I think this is another one that made me think of my mom. I don't know why. I mean, I think she likes birds well enough, but it's just a very pretty image, and I think that once I do this, I might pass this along to her because I'm not sure if she's ever done one of these really vintage 1965 Springbok puzzles, or 1960s Springbok puzzles, I should say, and I think she might get a kick out of trying this one out. So next up, and also in the vintage category from eBay, I have two others that I found that I'm really excited about. So This one is called Whirling Discs, and it's also from the 1960s, and it's all of these concentric circles, and they all form this kind of mod retro, very 60s image of these whirling discs. And I found this one also on eBay. I will say that this one arrived quite askew. It was in sort of a large cardboard box, and the seller had put it in kind of like uh, on an angle. So the box was quite damaged. I used some tape to kind of piece it together because the lid was coming apart. Ultimately, I decided it's not something I was going to take up with the seller. I think that they're not necessarily someone who's sending out a whole bunch of vintage Springbok puzzles, so I wasn't going to ding them for this. But I did kind of fix up the box for myself just so this wouldn't fall apart. But I'm really happy that this one's joining the collection, and I'm looking forward to doing this one. I think I'm going to do this one sooner than later because the puzzle was advertised as complete, and I want to make sure all the pieces got here. If they aren't, then that is something that I would reach out to the seller about to let them know. Okay, so next is another vintage puzzle that you may recognize because this has also been featured on Karen Puzzles. That was where I first saw it. I think she got this one at an estate sale, but I saw this one on eBay. The prices, I think, are a little bit inflated because there's added interest, probably because of that video. But it's this really cool geometric pattern, and I'm really excited about this one. The box was also a little bit damaged when I got it, but that was advertised in the listing. And once I pulled it open, I looked at the pieces on this one look like they're in really good condition. So this one and the whirling discs, I'm looking forward to putting those together sooner than later. I think they're going to be quite a challenge, but I think both of them are really beautiful in terms of the image. So I really chose this one and the whirling discs one to give myself a little bit of added puzzling challenge this year because I've been doing a lot of images that are sort of busy collage images, easier things to put together. I want to do a few things that are challenging myself, but I don't necessarily want to go into having ginormous puzzles all the time or doing really, really difficult solid colored puzzles. I thought this was kind of a happy medium and a bridge between some of the easier puzzles I've been doing and more difficult ones that I could see myself doing down the road. So next up is a Ravensburger puzzle, and this is one that is by Dean MacAdam, who is one of my absolute favorite puzzle illustrators. He has done a couple of puzzles that I've done in the past, including one called Everyone Here is Mad, I think that's what it's called, which is an Alice in Wonderland puzzle. And there's another one called Lions and Tigers and Bears that's a Wizard of Oz puzzle. So you might be able to see he has these kind of quirky characters within the puzzle. Most of them are familiar children's stories or children's books or fairy tales. And this one is of Little Red Riding Hood. I saw this one pop up in a Ravensburger Facebook group that I'm a part of. I think this one came from Amazon Italy, and it arrived here pretty quickly once it shipped, and I'm really excited to be adding this one to the collection. So since I'm showing you this one, I don't think I've showed these two in a past video, so it's not exactly a haul in that it's not brand new puzzles, but I'll show you some other recent ones that are by him that I've also added to the collection. Both of these have never been done either because I have a lot on the to-do list, but I'm intending to do all three of these. So this one is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So it's this like very chaotic scene inside the home. Looks really cool. And this one is Hansel and Gretel. And I really like this one because this kind of brighter central image of the gingerbread house is framed by this very insidious area here with all these quite creepy eyes. So I think this one is going to be fun to do as well. Looking forward to all three of those Dean MacAdam ones, and I hope that he has many more to come because I think he's a really talented illustrator. And I like that he will take a children's story, something that you look at as being kind of bright and happy. I mean, even though some of these have quite grim themes, they're in these books that you give to kids, and he takes them and he just gives this kind of dark twist to it that I really like as a puzzler. I think that they kind of appeal to young people and kids, but also to older people as well. And there's a lot of people who are on Instagram, Puzzlegram, who are talking about his artwork because he's becoming, I think, pretty quickly one of the favorite artists of puzzlers. So next is just a wee little puzzle, and this is a holiday themed one. I don't know if you can read that very well, but it says Bah Humbug. So I was just kind of going through vintage puzzles, also on eBay, and this one popped up for just a couple of dollars. It's from the, oh gosh, what year is it? I'm not actually sure what year this is from. I think it's probably from the 80s. And I recently got a puzzle of popcorn from my friend Jessica from a puzzle swap, and it seems to be from the same era. So I saw this one pop up. It's obviously a holiday themed puzzle. It makes me think of A Christmas Carol, but I picked it up while it was on eBay, and I'm planning to save this one for the next holiday so I can pull it out in December and have something festive to do. You know, I kind of like to do that if I see something pop up for a really good price that I think is going to be good for the holidays. I pick it up and then I try to set it aside in a place where I'm not going to forget about it, and then have a couple ready to pull out when the holidays come along. I've done that for Christmas. I've also done it for Halloween a couple of times, just for different occasions. I'm already planning ahead for some puzzles for the Puzzle Pride Along in June. So it's kind of a fun thing as a puzzler to be keeping an eye on what's coming up, what events do you want to celebrate through puzzles, and try to save a few aside for exactly that occasion. So last but not least, I have a special delivery. It's from Buffalo Games, and I blacked out the address on the other side so that you don't have my address or Buffalo Games shipping address. But I was very excited to see, actually just this week, a few days ago really, Aimee Stewart, who's a really great puzzle artist who's done many, many really bright, colorful, fun artworks for puzzles, posted about having 6 brand new designs from Buffalo Games. And I'd been keeping my eye on one in particular that I'm really excited to finally have, that I'm hoping I can do sooner than later, because I've been sort of dreaming about it and thinking about it a lot over the last couple of months since she posted a teaser image of it back in the end of the last year. So to pull these out, the first one is one that I was not aware of, that wasn't on my radar. I hope you can see that all right. And it's called My Awesome Collection 1989. So what it is it's like basically somebody's really, really busy desk, and they've got all these different stickers and erasers and pencils and all kinds of different cool stuff on there. It reminds me a little bit of Lisa Frank, who is sort of the precursor to Aimee Stewart in a way. Even though I think Lisa Frank is still around and working, the style of this kind of evokes that feeling, but definitely with Aimee Stewart's own twist on it, because Aimee Stewart is kind of the queen of doing the bright, colorful collage, pulling a lot of different elements in a way that's very aesthetically pleasing. And her puzzles are just always fun, and they're always happy, and just doing an Aimee Stewart puzzle is bound to leave you a little bit more inspired and happy than before you started. So this one was one that I had not seen before, but I'm really happy that I was able to pick it up. I'm glad that Aimee posted about it and put it on my radar. And the second one is the one that I had been eyeing for a while, and it's called Backstage at the Theater. And on the one side, it has the stage here and the curtain, and on the other side, it has the dressing room. So it has the costumes, and it has wigs up at the top, and posters, and the mirror, and all different hats and props. And so if you don't know, if you're fairly new to this channel, my background is in theater. I work in theater, and I love going to the theater. So when I chose the name for my puzzle account on Instagram and also for this channel, I chose Piece by Piece, which obviously seems like a very quotidian, easy to guess name, but I chose it because of the Stephen Sondheim lyric that goes piece by piece putting it together from the song From Sunday in the Park with George. So anytime I see a theater image, I'm always excited to see the world of puzzling and the world of theater kind of converge and combine. So I love this one. It's also in Europe, it's available on a Ravensburger puzzle, but I got it in Buffalo Games because I like that they are quite inexpensive, but still very good quality. So since I knew it was coming out Buffalo Games, when I saw the kind of more expensive iteration from Ravensburger, I decided to wait and buy it in the Buffalo Games form. Also partly because I have about 5 or 6 other Aimee Stewart puzzles that I've yet to do, and I like how they all look together with the little Aimee Stewart logo all together on the boxes. So this is one that I'm definitely going to do. I have a feeling that if I like it, this is going to be one that I'm going to be treasuring and keeping in the collection. So that puts an end to the traditional puzzle haul portion of this video. But wait, there's more, and I have more that I'm very excited to share with you in the next section of the video. So now we're in what I'm calling the bonus haul section of the video. So if you haven't already seen enough in terms of the last puzzle haul, I have a whole other box of puzzles here, and it's thanks to something that I'm pleased to announce to you today, which is that I have been selected as a Puzzle Warehouse ambassador for the year 2023. So if you don't know Puzzle Warehouse, here in the United States, they are pretty much the largest online retailer for jigsaw puzzles. They have some games as well, but their main focus is on jigsaw puzzles. And let me tell you, they have an insane selection of puzzles. When they told me that I was going to be an ambassador, I started going through all of their brands and all of their pages over again. I'd already seen a lot of them, but they're always constantly adding new puzzles as well. And they have a huge, huge selection at pretty good prices as well. So I'm really thrilled to be representing them. And also, you know, as part of the ambassador program, there's a whole group of us, and every month we write a different blog post about jigsaw puzzling. If there's a different topic that kind of sparks some excitement to us, we choose that and we focus on it, and we'll use the puzzles from the vast, vast selection of Puzzle Warehouse to kind of illustrate our points and our passions in these blog posts. So Puzzle Warehouse was kind enough to send me a ginormous box of puzzles. I'm so grateful to them. They've been so nice so far on this ambassador journey, and I thought I would take a moment to show you some of the different puzzles from this box. It's really fun because they sort of selected the puzzles for me, but I was able to give a lot of input into which ones I really like and what kind of topics I thought would be good for some early blog posts. So I'll walk you through these. I'm not going to talk necessarily about the posts that I'm going to make based on them. I'm going to leave that to be a bit of a mystery, but I will just kind of go through and show you the puzzles that are in the box so that you have a sense of the amazing selection that Puzzle Warehouse has. So first up is this Ravensburger puzzle. It's called Merry Wives of Windsor. Actually, it's called The Windsor Wives. And I love this one. I've had my eye on it for a while. It's by the artist Peter Church. You may recognize his work because he has a couple of other Shakespeare puzzles. He has one for Romeo and Juliet and one for The Tempest. There may be others, but those are the two that stand out to me. And he also has a really cool larger piece count puzzle from Ravensburger of the Cinderella story, which is also really beautiful, which I have here in my collection, but I haven't gotten around to it because it's a little bit larger and I know it's going to take some time. So I'm really happy that Puzzle Warehouse sent this one to me. I'm very excited for this 1,000 piece puzzle. And next up is another 1,000 piece puzzle. You may know if you follow my Instagram that I'm a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz. When I was growing up, it was a big part of our family. My dad used to read me a lot of the Oz books when I was growing up. So it's just always been something that's kind of sentimental to me. I love the movie, I love the books, and I've had my eye on this Masterpieces puzzle for a while now of The Wizard of Oz. I really like this illustration, which is, you know, clearly drawn from the imagery of the movie. And one of the things that I was trying to keep in mind as I was sort of choosing some of the puzzles that I would like to receive in this box is I wanted to try some different brands that I haven't already tried. And Masterpieces is one that has a lot of really cool images, but I've never tried them out before. So I'm looking forward to doing this one eventually and to knowing what this brand's quality is like, because I am excited to give this one a go. So I'll show you these three sort of in a grouping. There is Owl Magic. This one's Butterfly Magic. I apologize for the glare. I'm gonna bring these off screen so that I can show you the other one. And then this one is Rooster Magic. And these are all from the brand Cobble Hill. And they have artwork by Rosalind Solomon. And as I was browsing through the different puzzles on the Puzzle Warehouse site, I was looking at Cobble Hill because I have tried some of their puzzles, but I haven't done a lot of puzzles by them. But I do remember the quality being really, really good. And they have a whole bunch of puzzles that are whichever animal magic. So Butterfly Magic, Owl Magic, Rooster Magic. There are a couple of other ones in the series. And I just really like this kind of circular style and the way that it's kind of a stylized depiction of nature. I really think that Rosalind Solomon has done a beautiful job with these images. And this particular one is 500 pieces. The owl puzzle, which looks a little bit more difficult, is 1,000. And the butterfly one is also 500 pieces. And I just really like the way these look, and I'm excited to dig into these and have another go at trying Cobble Hill. I have tried them before, but you know, it's been a while and I'm always happy to dive back into that world. So next up is this 1,000 piece puzzle from the brand Ebu. So you may be familiar with Ebu. A lot of people on Puzzlegram are sharing this brand. I have done a couple of their puzzles, but it's been quite a while since I've done one. And this one came out, I believe, last fall. It's called The Alchemist's, I think it's either The Alchemist's Home, The Alchemist's Home. I was gonna say either home or house. And it features this cross section that looks almost like a dollhouse in terms of how kind of beautiful it is, and it's very, very detailed. But when you look at it, there's all these slightly disturbing, ghostly aspects to it. There's kind of several ghosts, or maybe different iterations of the same ghost roaming through the house and kind of maybe haunting the alchemist. Maybe it's his wife, I don't know. But I just was transfixed by this one, and I thought it looked like a fun one. Not too difficult, but enough of a challenge that it would keep me on my toes. So one of the early Ebu puzzles that I did is called UFO Victorian Ladies. And it's all these different textures and images of Victorian women juxtaposed against images of UFOs and aliens. And even though this doesn't have any aliens in it, just the slightly Victorian aspect of the imagery made me think of that one in a way that just made me want to try another Ebu and dive into this kind of odd and unusual scene here in this puzzle. So next is this fairly small puzzle. It's a shaped puzzle and it's called Dinosaur Days. So this was one that actually was not already on my radar or on my wish list, but it was in the box and it has some kind of shaped dinosaur whimsy pieces in it. This is more of a kid's puzzle. It's also by the brand Masterpieces. But hey, you know what I always say is if it's a kid's puzzle but you have fun with it, then it's an anybody puzzle. So I'm still looking forward to doing this one. I may pop this one out just on a day when I'm looking for something easy and breezy to get through without taking too much time out of my day. So I do plan on doing this one. It looks really fun. This one is called, well, it says Dinosaur Days. I think that's the title of the puzzle, but it looks cool and I'm looking forward to it. So next is this puzzle. It's from the brand Educa. I've seen a whole bunch of people doing these puzzles, but I've actually never tried the brand Educa, so I wanted to put this one on my list. This particular image is called Run Like a Girl, and it's by an artist named, I think it's Esther Geely. And I just really like it. It's this girl on a bike, and she's got this rainbow t-shirt, and it looks kind of like an 80s image. It makes me think of kind of like Stranger Things. And also, if you're familiar with this show that was on Amazon Prime a year or two ago, it's called Paper Girls, which was also a graphic novel series that I had read a while ago. So this one just made me think of that. I just thought it looked like a bright image and fun and something to give this brand a try. So it's a little bit outside of what I might normally choose for a puzzle image, but I wanted to kind of bring myself outside of my comfort zone and try some different things. So here we are, we've got Run Like a Girl, and I'm looking forward to trying this one. So next up is this Clementoni puzzle. This is also a fairly small one. This one is 250 pieces, and the somewhat unique thing about this one is it has a picture of this camera, a TV, a typewriter, and a radio, and it comes with a frame inside the box. So once you do the puzzle, it has a frame, and there's an image on the back that shows you, basically, you can put it right up on your wall. So I thought that was a cool idea. I know a lot of people do like to frame their puzzles and hang them or, display them somehow, but it's not something I normally do. But I did think that this was kind of a cool concept and something that I would like to try and see what it looks like. I don't know if this is going to be something that I will hang in my apartment, but let's see what it looks like when it's finished. Maybe I'll find room for it somewhere. So I'm a really big Anglophile. Before the pandemic struck, I really tried to get over to London to visit 1 or 2 times a year. The last time I was over there was in 2019, shortly before the start of COVID, and I'm really missing it, and I kind of want to go back to London, hopefully at some point this year. But until I'm able to get there in person, I wanted to try this puzzle, which is from the brand Treffle. And this is a Big Ben, obviously, and the Thames, and I just like the way it looked. I'm not a huge fan of puzzles that have a huge amount of sky in it, but because of all the clouds and also the water here, I thought this one would be reasonably doable, especially with only 500 pieces. So at some point, I definitely want to do this one and just be thinking about London while I'm doing it. So here we are, we're getting to the last 2 puzzles of this other extra haul, and this one is called, well, now I can't find the title. Okay, it's called Shakespeare in the Park. It's kind of obvious. It is of these little Shakespeares in Central Park, and there is Shakespeare on his bike, if you can see that on the image. And I just thought this one was cute. It's a little mini, and I love these little New Yorker minis. I have a couple of others on my shelf that I did around the holidays, and I am already kind of thinking ahead to the Shakespeare in the Park season this year in Central Park. I like to go usually every year, though I don't make it every single year, but I think this year, if I'm not mistaken, they're doing Hamlet, and I definitely want to check that out. So I like this little mini, and I'm excited to try that one out as well. And last but not least is this puzzle from the brand Heya, which is, I believe, a German brand? It's a German brand. And this one is of sorry about the glare here, but it's of a rocket launch. And that's the title of the puzzle. It's called Rocket Launch. And this is a 1,000-piece puzzle. It comes in this really interesting wedge-shaped box, as you can see, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't want to have a ton of these because I wouldn't know where they would go on my shelves, and I think it would drive me insane. But I've never tried one of these out, and I really wanted to, and I thought this image was cool. Heya as a brand, like in terms of these kind of busier scenes, a lot of them look very, very difficult. Either they have a lot of water or they have a lot of browns or a lot of dark colors. So I wanted to pick out one that I thought would be at least doable and give it a try and see how it goes. And then if I meet the challenge, I can always try another one. So this is going to be my very, very first Heya puzzle, and I'm looking forward to it. I have been really enjoying seeing some other folks putting together Heya puzzles recently, and it has been giving me a little bit of FOMO, so I'm glad that I'm finally going to be putting that to an end. So thank you again for tuning into this video. I know this has been a longer one than usual, so I really hope that you've stuck around to the end and that you're still here with me. If you are, I thank you so, so much for your support of my channel. A whole lot of people have been subscribing lately. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope you'll click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. My intention this year is to post a new Week in Pieces video every single week. Obviously, it's already a couple of weeks into the year and that's already been squashed by having a cold, but what are you going to do? Life happens, and I'm going to try to keep going with this as much as I possibly can, given whatever circumstances come up throughout the course of the year. So thanks again for tuning into this video, and now that I have this lovely empty cardboard box that I'm going to be refilling in a moment after I finish filming this video, I hope you will give this video a like, that you'll leave me a comment as to whether any of these puzzles are ones that you would like to try, or if you're working on any of these now, or if you have your own puzzle that you're working on that you would like to recommend to me, because I'm always happy to hear your suggestions. And until the next time, until the next video, I wish you all happy puzzling.
Piece by piece, piece by piece puzzler.